Hey, welcome back. Mr. Jeramiah Solven is here, who is a high-performance coach. He's a public speaker, and he is the entrepreneur behind elite leadership coaching company Conquer Academy. He's a former Army Ranger officer, and we're going to be talking about how Jeramiah has coached hundreds of people to success, including CEOs, entrepreneurs, and billion-dollar CEOs. He's been featured in Entrepreneur, Forbes, and TEDx, and Jeramiah is an expert in high performance, mental toughness, leadership, discipline, consistency, mission planning, and more. So we're going to be finding out from Jeramiah about what we need to know, what we don't know, how to be our best selves, and just amazing people in general. So Jeramiah, glad to be speaking with you.
Thanks, Robert. Glad to be here. Looking forward to providing value to the audience, help change some lives, man.
Yeah, let's get to change it. And so we introduced you a little bit, but as in your own words, what's your current focus and passion?
Yeah, I mean, I was raised small town kid, or a town of like 300 people. Grew up hunting bear and animals in Northern California with my dad. Got into the military after being a college dropout. Came in as an enlisted soldier. Decided to chase a dream and become a ranger. That took me about 9 years, and I ended up landing my dream job in the 75th Ranger Regiment. So that was like a dream come true. I basically felt like I had gone from playing flag football to playing in the NFL. And went overseas, got selected for a special operations assignment doing capture kill missions in Afghanistan. I got back from that deployment and I was going through a tough time and ended up, hitting pretty much rock bottom, and then had to build myself back up. And when I did that, I found a mentor, and he had been trained in person by Zig Ziglar. So my life was kind of like, I was doing great at work, but in all other areas of my life, I was just completely in shambles. No spiritual connection, finances were in the gutter, no friends, no real relationships. I had been trying to succeed as a business owner on my own, and I was failing at that. And I found this mentor, and he basically taught me that the world will get right when you get right. And he helped me put me together. And we did that, and I started succeeding more, not only in the military, but outside of the military. And I built up, some world-class relationships. I mean, I met high-level entrepreneurs, high-level athletes. I started a business, and then I ran 100 miles in the Colorado Rockies. I actually ended up doing that without a train up. So I signed up on a Sunday and impulsively ran it the following Friday. No train up at all. Went out there and did it 11,000 feet. And on that race, realized it was time for me to separate from service and pursue my calling of building leaders. So what I do today is I help people collapse the timeline to their goals. I help them grow their businesses. I help them transform their bodies and their businesses and their lives.
Amazing. So long story short, you're a pretty intense guy, right? And you've just done all kinds of ups and downs and all these sorts of things. And it seems like that kind of a recurring theme of what you've told us already is how important it is to have other people around you and have that sort of accountability and support system. And sure, you can accomplish a lot of things on your own, but just having those mentors or those people telling you, hey, like, you're not doing this right, or if you have those down days, to be like speaking to someone. And like that's really hard, isn't it, to have the people around you that you need to. It's kind of a lot to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to success, like, I never really thought I would even be standing here in front of you. I've had so many close calls in life, like almost had my head taken off overseas. I mean, I've had plenty of, every unit I've been a part of in the military had people that either we lost overseas or we lost when they got back from the deployments. And so, to be completely honest, I've lived a fast-paced life my whole life, even as a kid in the mountains of Northern California. And I didn't think I'd even be here at this level of, I guess you'd call it some level of success, right? But what I've learned over the years is that poor people are IMAs, broke people are IMAs, right? An IMA is I'm gonna do it myself. And I was that person for a long time. My pride and my ego prevented me from asking for help for a long time. So what ended up happening to me is, after I accomplished my dream job in the 75th, our last Ranger mission went south. We went in to go capture or kill this high value target. I had about 80 operators on the ground, and when we went in to capture this guy, he ended up in a 2-story compound and throwing grenades on top of us with a kid inside. And that night, the little compound that he was in had multiple fighters inside of it. They woke up and they started firing down on top of us. And so this dream job that I was chasing for so long became a nightmare. And we ended up having to withdraw that night. And I learned a lot about combat. I learned a lot about success. I learned a lot about leadership during that last Ranger mission. You know, I learned what teamwork looked like. I learned what being mentally tough actually looked like. Like I watched one of our leaders run towards gunfire and save a man's life. And after that mission, I came back to the States and I had to go on to another military assignment. And that night really, it really ate at me for a long time. And leader guilt is a real thing. So we all fail as leaders, whether you're trying to start your business, whether you're trying to grow your business, or maybe you've been in business for a while and you're actually starting to think that you're not going to make it. You feel like you're going to let everybody down, like your friends, your family members, everybody that you brought along. You feel like you're not the person that's going to be able to make that business successful. Well, those thoughts can eat up any leader. And leader guilt almost took my life. I started drinking. I started withdrawing. I went back to that I'm a mentality. I'm just going to handle these problems myself. And so I found myself with a gun to my head one night. You know, I was drunk and alone in an apartment, and I almost ended it. But what ended up happening is during this period of my life, I was away from my wife for about 2, almost 3 years. So not only was I going through a bunch of issues adjusting from the deployment, not only was I going through issues failing overseas as a leader, but my wife and our relationship was being strained, you know? And I think everybody can relate to that. Work beating you up, feeling like you're failing, feeling like you're losing. And what I learned during that hard time, that 2 to 3 year period where I was away from her, failing as a leader, was that you got 2 fucking choices when things are hard. When you're stressed out, you got 2 choices: get stronger or cut some stuff. Like stress is going to tell you how to get stronger, or it's going to tell you what you need to cut from your life. And for me, I needed to cut the drinking. I needed to cut the lifestyle, the escaping. And so I started building me to a higher level. And that's the key that I learned with success in any industry, is that it's not what you need to do, it's who you need to become. Okay, I had to change myself from small town kid to Ranger. And then I had to change myself from Ranger to failed. I went to failed leader, and then I had to build myself back up. And then I had to become an entrepreneur. And so it was never what do I need to do? It was who do I need to be? And I needed to become somebody that was authentic, somebody that had integrity, somebody that was even more disciplined, more focused, more mentally tough. Like people forget this in business. Like everybody says they want to grow a business, but who's going to grow the business? The person is, the leader.
Yeah.
You build the leader and the leader builds the business. So it's not what you need to do, it's who you need to be.
That's huge. And that gives us a lot to think about there. And just this, and I kind of like your approach here, that you're taking a lot of your kind of extreme life phases and then putting a parallel to a lot of what we all go through, right? And I mean, that's really sitting in my head there, that idea that either you need to become stronger or you need to cut some stuff, because it seems like, I mean, I really like the kind of the militaristic view of like your business or your self-development, but a lot of people have kind of bastardized it, right? Like, oh, you just need to be tougher. And it's like, well, getting tougher only gets you so far. You might have to also reconfigure and kind of be smart about it, not just throw some gasoline on the fire there. And you mentioned a little bit there about your kind of your PTSD, and that's something that I don't know a lot about and would like to know some about, especially like what you learned coming out of it, because you hear a lot about this, like guys are like real tough, they go into these like extreme situations, and when they come back home, then everything like mentally falls apart. And so like, but you also hear about how there's all these resources available. So like, what even is PTSD, and how do guys like you come out of it?
So just to give some context on my background and experience with PTSD. So first off is I've never been wounded in combat. I've fought in combat. I've had soldiers and leaders under me get injured while we were fighting in combat. The first time I was exposed to conflict was at 20 years old in Iraq. I was driving down the road and the vehicle in front of me exploded. It drove over an IED. Nobody died, but some guys got hurt inside. Okay. And I was in Iraq for 15 months. So PTSD actually, so it stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, right? I technically don't have post-traumatic stress disorder because I'm a fully functioning member of society, and not just, that's a bad way of saying it, because I don't have any symptoms that inhibit me from potentially getting a job or running my own business, right? A post-traumatic stress disorder would completely prevent me from being functional and being able to maintain a job pretty much. Okay. I'm being kind of loose a little bit with my description, but what I have is the symptoms of post-traumatic stress. I have pretty much all of them, right? And biggest thing that I have is adjustment disorder. I get stressed out and I get easily triggered, agitated. I'll have issues sleeping, stuff like that. And what actually happened with me in my adjustment from overseas is that because I wasn't kicking in doors like some of the combat arms were when I was over there at 20 years old, I got back and minimized my issues. Okay. I got back after Iraq and I was like, well, I wasn't kicking in doors. I didn't shoot anybody in the face. I didn't, see anybody I didn't personally get injured. And so I minimized the impacts of that deployment on me in my life. And so I started compartmentalizing. And this kind of leads to the answer of your question. I have 4 combat deployments, 3 to Afghanistan, 1 to Iraq. And the military is a lot like MMA fighting. They say that half of the battle is fighting. The other half is managing life while trying to fight. Okay. And it was very true in the military. And it's true in business. Half of the battle is staying alive in business and winning and succeeding and building it. The other half is managing your life while you're trying to build the shit too. So what I learned, how I really hurt myself was that I had all these stress related symptoms and stress and all this trauma that I had gone through from being overseas, whether it was being away from family for 15 months in a combat zone and not being used to society, like adjusting back to society, having adjustment disorder, or feeling guilty for having guys in my unit get hurt underneath my leadership, seeing guys die and bleed out. All that stress compounded in my life, and I compartmentalized it. I got so good at compartmentalizing that eventually it spilled over, right? So I got admitted to the ER one night, and I went in because I had a panic attack. And I was just doing a routine training exercise. I was out in the military. I was getting ready to go out to the field. It was nothing crazy, nothing too stressful. But they gave me a last minute tasking and it broke me down. And I mean, I'd handled scenarios that were 100 times worse than that task that they gave me. But I started hyperventilating. I panicked. My eyesight got very narrow. And I had to go to the ER. And what I learned was that I had been compartmentalizing my issues for so long that it was a lot like carrying around a full bucket of water on my head. All the water represented the stress that I had accumulated, whether it was moving the family, financial issues, spiritual issues, deployments, combat, losing friends. And that one little incident, that one little task that the military gave me to go to the field, and they said, hey, we want you just to do this training exercise, that broke me. It was like one little drop into the bucket and it spilled over on top of my head. So what I learned is that I hadn't processed any of the issues and the stress that I had been compartmentalizing for that 15-year period. So my advice to everybody that's going through something, I turned to, like when I thought that decompressing and relaxing meant watching some Netflix, drinking some beers, playing some video games, just kind of escaping from it all. But that's not decompressing, that's escaping, and that just makes the issues worse. And that's what happened to me. The water never got emptied from the bucket. So when I almost ended my life, that was the second time, or that actually happened before I had the panic attack, but that was an indicator that the bucket was full and I ignored those issues. So long story short is that anybody that's going through, I don't care what type of stress you're going through in your life, sometimes the stronger thing to do is to go get help. Like that's how you need to get stronger. That's how I had to get stronger. I had to drop my ego and I had to go talk to a doctor. And there's a huge stigma around that in the military. As soon as you go to see a psych doctor, there's rumors that your career is just done. Like they're not going to push you on to the next a special assignment that you want. They're going to say you're not fit for that duty. So you can really, it's like shooting yourself in the foot. And not only that, but then everybody sees you as somebody that's almost like diseased or something, It's like, oh man, that's a guy that's, now thankfully the military's kind of shifted over the years, but I'll tell you, all leaders suffer from stress, right? And like I said, I needed to cut some things. I needed to cut the drinking and stop escaping. I needed to stop looking for happiness and fulfillment and peace in all the places that was destroying it. Okay. I was looking for happiness, peace, and all that stuff in drinking in the evenings, maybe going out and being and overdoing it with the party lifestyle, escaping, man. Even just simply just checking out mentally and watching TV and not addressing what was actually going on in me is a form of escaping. So that's what I had to learn, is that sometimes the strong thing to do when you're dealing with stress is go seek help. But in my example, I also had to cut some stuff, and that was all the vices, all the things that were holding me back, the dead weight in my life, that was the real problem.
Yeah, and that is a huge insight there, that are you decompressing or are you escaping, right? Are you really relaxing and processing and maybe emptying some of the water out of the bucket on your head, or are you just kind of going somewhere else for a little while and then coming back, but then it's still there, if not even more so. And
Yeah,
so
you're messing up
that's
your reality. You're literally like destroying your reality. Whether you're drinking, doing caffeine, whether you're using nicotine, whether you're watching TV, no matter what you're doing, all those things are distractions pulling you away from your reality. So if you don't want to be in your reality, what the hell is going on in your life?
right. Yeah, like what are you escaping from? Improve it so that you don't want to. And so, this is wonderful to think about, and this is some really deep stuff. And I want to make sure that we have time to jump into the business side of things, because you have this cool approach to business. You've helped a lot of people. So tell us about what you've accomplished in business and what you have to say about it.
Yeah. I mean, I started my business while on active duty, and I started building it at basically 2:00 in the morning. So for almost a year, I was waking up at 2 in the morning, learning sales, marketing, social media. And I had started my business right after that deployment, where I had a mentor, and some people that I had been in school with wanted me to coach them on leadership and high performance. They're like, hey, I've seen you really excel in your military career. And at this point, I'd really gotten myself together holistically too. So they were starting to see that on social media. They saw me being more healthy. They saw me working out harder. They saw my relationship starting to grow. They saw me as a successful, holistic person. And I had become that because I had built myself into it. And so I put out a post on social media and seeing if there was people that wanted to work with me, because that's what my mentor recommended. He said, hey, you need to be helping people overcome the challenges that you've overcome, help them with leadership, help them with productivity, high performance, goal setting, and achievement. And I wrote a book while I was on that deployment. But so yeah, some things that I've accomplished. I became an author, published author. I was an Amazon bestseller in fitness with that book. And then we just republished the same book this last 2 weeks. And so now there's hard copies that are out. I got published in Entrepreneur and Forbes magazine. And I didn't pay for either of those. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just didn't do that. I got sought out to get interviewed for those magazines. And in business, in coaching, I've had 100K months. So where I'm primarily doing that through social media, not paid advertising. So that's pretty good profit margins, usually 80% profit margins, depending on how it's kind of put together. But, easily a multiple 6-figure business, closing in on 7 and 100K months periodically. So the only way I was able to really accomplish what I've accomplished as a business owner, whether it was the notoriety like Entrepreneur magazine, Forbes magazine, social media, was that I became a man of integrity. And I really think that that's the key to business, is that I have customers that I've worked with for 4 years. I have a customer right now that came to me, and I coach people over 9 figures and under 6. Okay. So I coach everybody. You got a problem, come to me and we'll solve it. But this guy, he came to me for life coaching, actually, to start. Wanted to change his life, was a college student, couldn't get a job, had his MBA. Nobody was looking at him and wouldn't give him any time of the day. We ended up changing his whole life. This was like 4 years ago. He moved from Texas to Colorado, got into a new job, got him all straightened out, started making money, got into MMA. And then just last year, he signed up for my high performance coaching, and he's in sales now. So before our first call, I helped this guy make $17,000 before our first real coaching call off of a couple little things that I taught him. And really what I learned, I mean, 17 grand without getting on a coaching call. I mean, come on, that's pretty good. Like,
Oh yeah.
and he was in a rut. Like he wasn't like making 17K prior to signing up with the stuff, you know? But basically what I mostly teach people is I teach them how to overcome fear. I teach them how to collapse the timelines to their goals. And I teach them how to build teams to help them accomplish their mission. And so what that turns into is a 8-9 figure entrepreneur expanding his restaurants, right? Because I've done that. I've helped the entrepreneur go from 3 to 4 restaurants in about 4 to 5 months. I've helped people buy dream homes in 3 months versus 12. I've helped people run their first marathon in weeks when they thought it was going to take years. I mean, the list goes on and on. But the things that I'm most proud of is when I really help somebody change their life. And I love helping people make money. But I find that in order for me to really work with somebody to make money, they have to really work on them first. Because if I teach you how to make money and you're not the person that has integrity, you're not the person that can manage it, and you don't have the character to do well with it, you'll make the money and it'll be gone in a short period of time. So those are some things that I help people with, and yeah, I'm very proud of my students. They do great.
And that's very inspiring and a lot to think about, that we need that solid foundation. We need the other parts of our life to be good. We need to be a good person, and we need to be the person you mentioned a few times. Like there's the actions that you take, but there's what's even more important is just like the person that you need to become in order for these actions to stick, right? Because otherwise you start the business, it'll fail. You make the money, it'll go away. You need to have those solid foundations. And so in these last couple of minutes of us talking here, there's so many areas that we could go into, but in your opinion, in this modern time, what do you think needs the most attention? Like, where are people feeling the most?
I think that people need to stop chasing results and start chasing personal excellence. Like if a person chases personal excellence, not only will they get to the result faster, but they'll feel more at peace and at ease. Like a lot of times what people will try to chase the money or try to figure out some strategy to grow the business, and they're looking for a shortcut. But if you constantly look for shortcuts, if you constantly cut corners, all you're doing is going in circles. So if you're a business owner and you've been plateaued for months and years, and maybe 2-3 years, and you haven't broke through that plateau, you're living in insanity. You're probably trying to chase a result versus making yourself better. Okay, so there's 3 keys that you guys need to focus on to really transcend the problems that you're facing. Okay, building the best you will always fix all your problems. The best version of you solves all your problems. So all you need to do is tackle that. But there's 3 things to achieve your personal greatness. Think of this like a pyramid. At the very top of the pyramid is you at your personal best, your greatness. On the right side of the pyramid is high performance, your ability to turn bad days into good days into great. In order to overcome adversity, and you get stuff done when you don't want to. And then on the left side, you have leadership, your ability to influence not only yourself, but others, build a team, build a culture. And at the very bottom of the pyramid, you have your skills and you have your character. So you have your skills, that's your ability to do the task at hand, the job that you have. So if you're in sales, it's your ability to do sales. If you're a tech guy or you're an engineer of some type, it's your ability to do that job. And your character is the foundation, right? So your integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing. A lot of people, when you're in business, if you've been in business longer than a day, you know that you're faced with a lot of decisions every single day. And if you don't ever learn to make decisions with integrity, eventually it's going to catch up to you and you're going to fall from the top of that pyramid. You're going to fall from your greatness. You're going to make a bad decision that wasn't the right call, and you're going to slip and you're going to fall. You see this with athletes all the time. They reach that apex, they reach that personal greatness, and then they get in trouble, drinking and driving, domestic violence. They do something in their life where they're not making decisions from integrity, and they fall from their greatness and they're starting to fuck over. So that's my recommendation for everybody here is don't chase a result, chase your personal best.
That's very nice. It's very motivating. And I'm going to have to go back and listen to that one clip and draw out that triangle, because that sounds really cool. But we also want to make sure that now that we've gotten a taste about you and your accomplishments and your mindset and your advice, that we then know about some next steps. So if someone says, man, this Jeremiah guy, he seems like he has a lot figured out. He helps a lot of people. He might be able to help me. Where do they find your excellent book, your social media, your website, some next steps here?
Yeah, you guys, you can reach out to me. I want to say this 2 things. First thing is you can reach out to me on Instagram. That's where I want you guys to hit me up. but just start getting to work today. Like, don't wait to talk to me to start putting in some work. Go attack your weaknesses, go figure out what they are, and start taking action. That's what I want to see. And then, yeah, hit me up. Jeramiah Solven on Instagram. Just make sure you spell the name right. JERAMIAHSOLVEN. And just DM me, let me know the podcast that you're coming through. So just say Marketer of the Day podcast, Robert, something like that, so I know where you're coming from. And then I have my website, conqueracademy.com, www.conqueracademy.com. So you guys can check both those out, but I'm very active on Instagram, and you guys just hit me up there, and I'd love to talk with you.
Super great. ConquerAcademy.com, and then Jeramiah, but that's with an A, Jeramiah Solven on Instagram. And then you also have a very excellent podcast called Be the Leader with Jeramiah Solven. So like you said, Jeramiah, if someone got something out of this show and they just want to make contact, make that first step, send that message. That way you get the wheels turning, but don't wait until that call with Jeramiah to get some problem solved, get a few things figured out on your own. And so as people are heading over to Jeramiah Solven on Instagram and conqueracademy.com, I always like to end with a bang instead of a whimper. I always like to ask my guests about a fun quote or lesson that has really helped them or can help us. So what comes to mind as far as a quote or lesson?
I mean, it's the lesson that really helped me in business more than all others. And it's that you can get everything you want in life if you just help enough people get what they want. And really, that's the truth when it comes to business, or whether I was leading an infantry company. The way to accomplish your mission is to help people accomplish theirs. If you help people get what they want, anything is possible. And my mentor taught me that. He learned it from Zig Ziglar. So that's quote has been a North Star for me over the years. You can get everything you want in life if you just help enough people get what they want.
Very nice. And I'll be thinking about that for a long time. Help as many people as you can to get what they want, and you'll get what you want. Jeramiah Solven, conqueracademy.com. Wonderful speaking with you.
Thanks, Robert.